Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another Skeleton Crew video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, the one, the only, Star Wars Meg. I'm just being a bit overly theatrical because I've got a very exciting Star Wars theory. I could be wrong, but I think I've worked out the way Skeleton Crew ends. In most of my predictions for the season so far, I've tried to keep things very level-headed, trying to not go overboard, to go crazy, but the theory we're exploring today is a little bit of a wild guess. I'm just going to throw this out there, I've given it a ton of thought, and I would love to know what you think. Don't go too hard on me if you disagree. It's just a fun theory based on several observations, not just in episode 6, but also episode 1. So, let me lay the groundwork. I noticed something very interesting. In episode 6, Jod Na Nawood, Captain Silvo, is able to evade his death sentence, death by airlock, by convincing Brutus and co. the legend of Tak Reynolds is real, and so is the treasure on At Attin. He's gonna take them there, but with a severe warning from the captain that if he messes up, if he's lying, he's gonna face severe consequences. The aforementioned space version of walking the plank, death by airlock. Jod has the coordinates. But then I got to thinking about the way the season's been structured. In the very first episode, Jod very clearly betrayed their trust. After leading them to a vault that was supposed to contain riches beyond their wildest dreams, they were surprised to find it empty. So many lives lost, for one measly credit on a bulk freighter. Why would they trust him again? He's dubious, and he's clearly put them through a lot. And then it dawned on me, what if the opening scene of episode 1 hasn't happened yet? What if that's a case of a TV show showing us the ending at the start, and then building up to the context, which I think is going to be in episode 8. Lee Isaac Chung is episode 7 next week, and the finale is John Watts again, the showrunner but also the director of the first episode. And the reason I say this is when the children first meet Jod in the prison on Borgo, he says he's been in the brig for a very long time. The way the show's presented the timeline of events is they want you to think the vault heist is why Jod was in prison, but I think he was in there for a very different reason. The opening scene at the beginning is his second chance, the mission to find At Attin, which I don't think has happened yet. Silvo was once the captain, Brutus the first mate, then he was sentenced, we don't know why, and now he's about to be given another chance, the mission we see at the start of the season, and there is some proof to back this up. When you rewatch the first scene with this in mind, following episode 6, you notice a few more details. Silvo, when he's got his helmet on, talks about trust. He alludes to having betrayed them before, and it's also evident Brutus is hostile towards him too. The show has made us think it's all chronological, but the season might end with Silvo disappointing the crew, and then blank. And this is the next thing we need to talk about. We never see what happens to Silvo after he's being roughed up by a couple of crew members. Because of the structure of the show, we've assumed it was then, after that scene, he was thrown into the brig. But I don't think so. I think it cuts out before something massive happens. My prediction, he gets out his lightsaber and kills Brutus. So then the question becomes, well, what happened to the credits? Well guys, this feeds perfectly into a theory I brought up a few weeks ago. The coordinates might lead them to this ship, which is near At Attin, and the reason the credits are missing is, like I said, I think the true nature of what's happened to At Attin could feed into an overtaking from the Imperial Remnant. It could be Thrawn, or a different member of the Shadow Council, and this could be the way the season ends, possibly connecting to the Mandalorian and Grogu, and Ahsoka Season 2. Even further proof is a fan on Reddit was able to translate some of the coordinates, and it appears as though there is a connection between Dathomir and At Attin. Dathomir is where the Great Mothers and Thrawn are located, and given the powers of these ancient Night Sisters, and other hints like the Sith writing, witch-like figures on Kim's map, just as they knew of Peridia, they might be amongst the few in the galaxy who know how to locate At Attin. It's just a wild theory. I know there are some people who don't want any connection to the wider Mandalorian universe, but if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, that's absolutely ludicrous, I urge you, my dear friend, go and rewatch the first episode, the opening scene. You don't even have to watch the entire thing, and then rewatch episode 6, and then tell me with certainty there is no chance of this being the case. In this version of events, it does mean Jod doesn't go through a redemption, unless they use this scene as the beginning of episode 8. But I can absolutely foresee a situation where he uses his lightsaber at the end of the show. That's going to be like the big Luke Skywalker moment, although it's Crimson Jack, Captain Silvo. Now if you watched my episode breakdown, you already know that I loved episode 6. Bryce Dallas Howard did an immense job. But we should also be very excited for next week's episode for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's directed by the very talented Lee Isaac Chung. He's the one who directed The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3 The Convert, Chapter 19. Now, I don't know if you guys remember when I covered this episode, I'm not a big fan of Mando Season 3 compared to the first 2 seasons, but I have to say, and maybe it's because I'm just a huge fan of Coruscant, I love the interactions between Dr. Pershing and Katie O'Brien's Elia Kane. I thought that was a great episode, but then to add some further context, I'm a huge cloning fan within the Star Wars galaxy, whether it's Kamino in the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, or whether it's further down the timeline with The Remnant, and even the mysterious stuff that leads to Snoke. And on top of that, I always thought Dr. Pershing was a rather funny character. It amused me this very intelligent scientist, who otherwise plays by the rules, who was even willing to cooperate as part of the amnesty program of the New Republic, is simultaneously a geneticist who was an accomplice to so much evil. Well, I guess now his brain has been fried. And the second reason to be really excited is that this is the episode we're gonna learn about Jod's past. Was he a Jedi himself? An Order 66 survivor? Are there going to be flashbacks? Was his parent a Jedi? Did he evade Inquisitors once upon a time? What is the deal with the most asked question about this character? So the next 2 weeks I think are going to be absolutely insane. I know at times in the past my theories have been pretty wacky. I do have a good record of a lot of them coming true, and this is something that started as a small idea at the back of my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I literally think this is what's going to happen. The opening scene of the entire season, which I think they assume most fans have forgotten unless you've gone back to rewatch it, is going to play into episode 8. And on the subject of Jod, something super underappreciated in the new episode is the pirate sea shanty. I love the world building, it's small things like this that just make Star Wars feel big again. I feel the magic in Star Wars again, and ironically it's something that feels so far removed from what you would traditionally associate with this galaxy far, far away. But you know, if you followed my Acolyte breakdowns, and that was a really tough time because I really wanted to like the show, but I just couldn't. My passion really felt depleted at times. I felt kind of empty. I didn't have the personal investment like I do in this one. And even if this theory is wrong, I'm just so excited for the ride this show is taking us on, and where it's going to go in the last 2 episodes. I theorize we're going to have a situation where Jod and all of the children live, and if I had to put money on any character dying, I think it's Brutus. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. Are you excited for episode 7 and then episode 8? If you like this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Why not check out my Patreon? The link is down below. May the Force be with you, always.